It's been hard to find steady wages for a reasonable work balance. People who've never grown say it every time that they realize how much work it is, and then October comes, and before you know it, you're working 14-hour days every day, and that's one thing in the industry I see a lot of people who are in my position have to deal with.
That's Mike Edwards. He's a hemp consultant at a greenhouse operation in western Pennsylvania. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today we'll hear my conversation with Mike about being a hemp consultant and what it's like to grow in a great big greenhouse, and other sorts of things that a young person getting involved in the hemp industry should think about. Then we'll talk to Eric Titus White and Cameron McIntosh about a series of Hempcrete workshops that they are hosting this September in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia. But first, a big old nugget of hemp news, and then I'd like to have a few words with you about the podcast. Okay, so the big news in the hemp space this week, and I admit that I'm recording this on Saturday, August 22nd, because I'm on vacation this week, and I still want you to have a podcast to listen to. Anyway, the big news nugget is the DEA's IFR, which IRL may or may not have an impact on the hemp industry. Here's what the Jacobson Hemp Daily Bulletin is saying. Across the country today, extractors, farmers, and traders that are long in hot extracts are strategizing how to respond to the dire risk created overnight by the US Drug Enforcement Administration. The agency issued its own interim final rule yesterday, and it is a significant threat to cannabinoid hemp markets and hemp pricing. Operators are now faced with substantial risk exposure, and while remaining optimistic and engaged in the policy process, they should not be cavalier about the threat from the DEA. And you've probably seen the blog posts that are going around by Rod Kite at cannabusiness.law. They've got this tempting headline of DEA just dropped a bomb on the hemp industry. And he talks about hemp extract, in particular what he calls work-in-progress hemp extract. And he puts forth what he calls his legal theory on work-in-progress hemp extract, which he says that the framers of the Farm Bill had taken into consideration. And he talks about Delta-8 THC, and he says that the DEA is improperly criminalizing Delta-8 THC derived from hemp in this interim final rule. And then you've got organizations like the National Hemp Association who are saying that, no, this is not a big deal at all. In fact, the National Hemp Association, which, full disclosure, has in the past been a sponsor of this show, they released a statement that basically says the industry should not be concerned about this, that this IFR is merely seeking to modify the DEA regulations and definitions to align with the descheduling of hemp that occurred with the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill. They go on to say that what's notable is that this IFR only refers to consumer products to ensure that they are Delta-9 compliant. It does not address mid-processed crude or distillate, which often exceeds legal THC levels. So moving/selling those materials across state lines remains ambiguous and problematic. However, while this IFR does not alleviate that concern, it also does not make it worse. The NHA then goes on to say that the potentially positive thing in the IFR is the fact that the word decarboxylation does not appear anywhere in the document. While total THC remains the protocol in determining hemp to be compliant at the USDA/farm level, the fact that the DEA IFR only references Delta-9 could provide some much-needed breathing space for the smokable flower market. This will be even more beneficial as we work to relax the sampling protocols USDA uses to determine compliance by encouraging them to allow samples to be a whole plant composite and not just the topmost potent portions of the flowers, and to push out the 15-day harvest window that USDA currently requires. Even with the 15-day harvest window, it is possible that flowers may slightly exceed legal limits after compliance testing but before harvest. So this Delta-9 only definition is welcome relief of that concern. The NHA says that the Delta-8 THC issue isn't addressed at all in this document. They say that while this may be viewed by some to be a go-ahead for marketing Delta-8 products derived from hemp, there is another argument that Delta-8 may fall under the category of synthesized tetrahydrocannabinoids and remain a Schedule I substance. Okay, so not everyone is in agreement about this DEA Interim Final Rule, but what everyone does agree on is that you need to make your voice heard. The public comment period for this rule is open until October 20th, so you've got less than 60 days now to gather your thoughts and make them known to the DEA. I'll have a link to the DEA's comment page on the show page for this episode. All right, so that's the big fluffy news nug for today. But in other non-essential news, this episode that you're listening to right now is our 99th show. For 99 nearly consecutive weeks, we've been doing this show. And I say we, but I admit it's been mostly me doing all the work. And of course, our wonderful and gracious guests over the past 99 shows. Oh, and you, obviously the listener, you've been a big part of this show. And of course, Lancaster Farming newspaper has been a big help, with the paychecks and the moral support and the health care and, giving me a platform to do all this. So I take it back. It hasn't been just me. It's been all of us working together to make what feels like a substantial thing. And so maybe the show is a metaphor for the whole hemp industry. A group of people working together to make something substantial, an industry that will make a difference in the world, change the world, improve the world, save the world. That's how I feel about hemp. So if this is the 99th episode, then next week will be our 100th episode. And I'd like to do something special. I'd like to hear from you guys, yins, y'all. Have you enjoyed the show? Has it meant something to you? Have you learned anything from it? Has it brought you joy in any small way? I would love to hear your voices and share them on next week's show. So it would be awesome if you could take a moment this week to call in and leave a short message. Your first name, where you're calling from, your role in the hemp space, and, maybe what this show has meant to you. So that's it. That's the special thing I want to do, and I hope some of you will oblige me. So call in at 717-721-4462. Leave a message, but don't worry, no one is going to pick up the phone on our end. So if you're worried about a potential awkward situation, don't worry. It's going to go straight to voicemail. 717-721-4462. And so I thank you all for listening to our 99 episodes. I greatly appreciate it, and I really look forward to making more episodes about industrial hemp. Thanks. All right, so let's get on with today's show. My first guest is Michael Edwards. So Michael sent me an email a few weeks ago. He tells me he's a hemp grower. He's working as a consultant on some hemp farms out in western Pennsylvania. He's young, he's ambitious, he's always looking to learn more, and he's always looking to connect with people and to take what he has learned already and help people. And so here he is. Michael Edwards, welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Could you introduce yourself for us, please?
Hey, my name's Mike Edwards. I'm from Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania. I'm 24 years old. I've been growing for a while. I got my first job in a greenhouse about 18 years old. I was growing there for a while, and then about last year I started growing hemp, and it's been quite a blast. I've learned a lot, and it's took me for a lot of opportunities. Right now I'm currently growing out here in Westmoreland County for a guy who has a 40,000 foot square greenhouses. Those are 150 foot long bays, 130 foot wide. And right now we're just cruising along in the flower. That's where we're at now.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show today, Mike. So how did you get your start in this? And, what are you up to out there?
So, I'm out here in Westmoreland County. I've been growing for a while since I was pretty young. But when I was about 18, I got a job at a greenhouse growing annuals and different perennials and flowers.
Oh, cool.
And it led me to a company that was growing hemp. And last year, I joined up with them, spent a full season with them. It turned out okay. I learned a lot from them. They did a lot of do's and don'ts and just first-time grower experience and things like that. But this year, I got a call from an old greenhouse, and they wanted me to come help them. They've completely reverted their greenhouses into growing hemp.
Oh, no.
So I've been here. We're in the middle of coming into flower right now. we were trying to light dump that in the beginning of the year, but we just missed the window. We were trying a couple different things. It's his first year here too.
What did you say you were trying to do? What?
Light deprivation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we try to do like a standard setup. We put blackout tarps on cranks, and we had one section of the greenhouse set up, and we were kind of messing with it for a little while, but we kind of just missed that window in July to really get it going.
You were trying to get it to flower early.
Yeah, we were going for an early flower.
You're doing regular photo period hemp?
Yeah, regular photo period. Now we're just cruising into flower now. A lot of our plants are starting to turn over and stop stretching so much and starting to stack a little bit of buds on them. So that's where we're at now.
Good. What size grow do you got?
We have a 40,000 square feet grow. We have two large commercial greenhouses, one south range and one north range. And yeah, we have 150-foot long bays, 30-foot wide. And what we've done with them is we've been growing our plants in pots. They're in about maybe 5-gallon pots. They're in pretty small pots, but we water them a lot. So
yeah,
it's kind of been balancing that out. But what we did is we lined up 2-row sections on each side of each greenhouse. And then each greenhouse is about 24 hoods. Like I said, it's about 40,000 square feet, and we have 2 of those. So there's about 24 what I would call bays, hoops. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we put 2 plants, 2-row sections on each side of the greenhouse. So we have 2 rows and one long walkway through the middle. And then on top of that, what we did is we put scrog netting on top of that just to hold them and to stretch them out and just for stability of the plant. And we started them pretty early. We've had these plants in pots since almost about April, so they're pretty big now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's where we're at now. So, yeah, it's been interesting. I've been learning a lot. And like I said, I was with the company last year, and I saw a lot of their things they were doing and their don'ts, and I'm trying to catch those now. So,
where was that company?
That was also in out here in Westmoreland County.
Okay. So, what kind of genetics you got out there, and where did you source your seeds?
We are currently running a strain called Wife. It's the only strain we're running right now, and it's a pretty good strain, pretty vigorous score. We sent in a sample earlier, not like about a week or two, and we're waiting to get the results back on it from an earlier plant. But yeah, that's the strain, and the food we're using, the nutrients, is a commercial nutrients. Now it's salt based, and right now we're kind of just growing on a very low budget with basically what we had laying around the greenhouse. And my boss, it's his first year growing, so he's trying to see what he can do. And I mean, he knows the difficulties and the pros and cons and growing on salt, but we're so big and huge, he kind of has to balance it out. So we're trying to do this year to improve next year with what we do. But yeah, that's what we're doing now.
So what's your plan for harvesting?
Right now we are gonna dry in the greenhouse. We are going to take top heads off of the plants and just take the bigger buds, like the nice stuff, and use that as smokable and see how much we can get at. We have 2 full-size, probably 40 feet by 40 foot coolers that we use for cut flowers. We're going to revert those into drying rooms and basically hang scrog nets and hang them on the scrog nets. Now, from what I learned last year, that can take quite some time, and so we're just going to do as much of that as we can. And me telling you this, I'm just a consultant as far as me working where I'm at now. I really have no oversight and exact call on what gets done, and that's just part of being a consultant and helping people out. But like I said, we're gonna dry in the coolers and hang them on scrogs and use that for smokable, and then everything else we're gonna cut and hang in the greenhouse because, I mean, as I'm sure you know, 40,000 square feet of plant can take up a lot of space.
Yeah, right. Well, how many plants is that? Do you have a count?
It's about 20,000 plants. I'm pretty sure it's about 20,000 plants.
Wow, that is big. And then do you have like a buyer lined up, or what's your plan to market?
Well, we in the beginning of the year, we were making clones, and we sold a lot of clones to a lot of people and just kind of explained to them what we're doing. But as far as buyers, we have a couple people who came and looked at some of our earlier crops and seemed interested. So we're just gonna see who comes and checks it out. We have a couple processors we can get it to turn it into tinctures and oils. We've talked to a couple different people, maybe doing like some cryo. Are you familiar with the cryo where you freeze it?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so we're thinking about doing that because it's just a lot of labor once you start cutting them plants down. We'd like to get it down, dry it, and get it going, you know?
Yeah, right. Are you concerned like about the CBD market, that it's kind of flooded right now? Like there's still a lot of crop from last year that hasn't been sold?
Yeah, we definitely are, and that's part of the reason why everything we did this year was kind of just like on a low-scale budget, kind of just to dip our toes, because we've had greenhouses set up here for a while, and it was pretty easy to do what we did this year. I mean, I'm the only full-time person here all day, and it's just me. And after we set our irrigation systems up, it was just pretty much smooth sailing. But yeah, I personally am worried about a huge flood in the CBD market. Even from my experience last year, I know a lot of this stuff that we grew is just now getting sold. So
right.
I definitely see that being an issue, but we'll see how it goes, you know?
Right. How about testing? Did you have anybody come out from the state yet? Or you're not that close to harvest yet, are you?
We haven't had anyone come out and test yet. Like I said, we sent out some samples, but yeah, no one has been out to test or any of that. We're not that close to harvest yet.
Right. Because that's something you have to set up. You have to contact one of their agents.
And also, if I can add this about something else about the market this year, I think growing in a greenhouse gives us some advantage compared to a lot of farmers who are growing outdoors. We kind of have had a bit more of control over the pest, maybe just because we're in the greenhouse and we're a little closer compared to being outside so close to nature. We've kind of balanced that, and I'm very interested in seeing how these flowers turn out compared to a lot of the outdoor crops I've seen last year that got pretty badly devastated by powdery mildew and armyworms were problems for us out here last year.
Are you seeing any kind of pest pressure in the greenhouses?
We've sprayed early. We've used we did neem early in the season. We've tried a couple different pest controls. A lot of the stuff that gets sprayed is not my part as a consultant, you know, because a lot of the things that get sprayed I'd rather not spray. I recommended neem. There's a different product we use called Smite, if you've ever heard of that. A couple really good garden stores around this area carry it. It's a combination of rosemary, coconut oil, and just a couple different organic herbs and oils. One of the problems we're running into right now is root rot, and we're looking for ways to treat that because, like I said, a lot of our plants are really big, and they're in small pots, and they're just getting so big the roots are starting to rot. So we've been looking into adjusting that. So that's what we've been doing for pest management and plant problems.
Right. What other kind of concerns do you have about the industry or the grow there at your place?
Well, coming from a consultant, someone like me who's worked for two different companies, it's been hard to find steady wages for a reasonable work balance. You know, I've worked for a company last year, and I did a lot of work for a guy, and you know, you put a lot of work into growing hemp, and you never know. People who've never grown say it every time that they realize how much work it is, and then October comes, and before you know it, you're working 14-hour days every day, and that's one thing in the industry I see a lot of people who are in my position have to deal with, and also just working for a company, and crops don't always go as planned. And as a consultant, I understand that, but there's been times where I've seen people get laid off of positions where they thought they were going to be there for a while, and next thing you know, things going to go as planned, and it's October, and like I said earlier, some people are just now selling their crops. So that's an issue I see as far as like a consultant and someone just working in the industry. Just all I would say to that is to find good people to work for and make sure they're okay with the amount you can work and what you're comfortable with and that sort of thing. But other than that, as far as the industry, nothing really off top of my head that I could think of that I have too much concern about.
All right. Would you ever consider growing for grain or fiber, like getting out of CBD altogether?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Very interested in that. I think that's also a huge place where the industry is going. I actually got to take a really cool trip out to California last year and met a really interesting guy who was very invested into growing hemp just for the fibers and making it into clothes. I see that as a very profitable and good way to use the plant for sure. Also, last year at Mr. Steve Goff's that I really enjoyed, I went out there and just for him, and he had a demonstration of Hempcrete, which also I find very interesting. And I think if people would focus a bit more on growing like that, we could take Hempcrete and hemp fibers a lot farther, a lot quicker. And I think people underestimate the value of it for sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't really even know about this plant and what it could do, like non-hemp people. But yeah, once it's a tough situation because on one end, like these companies could use a lot of hemp to make all kinds of different things, from cars to, all sorts of different things, but they need a steady supply, and the farmers aren't going to grow the steady supply until they know they have the guaranteed market. So it's like the chicken and the egg scenario. But, every little bit helps. You mentioned going to Steve Groff's farm. What other sorts of things do you do to sort of educate yourself?
Well, before I started growing hemp last summer, about in the fall, I rented out a greenhouse from a really great garden store out this way in Murraysville, Route 22. They're really good people, very informational, and they gave me a great opportunity to rent out a small greenhouse that they had, and there I grew everything from vegetables to flowers to hanging baskets, and I would go sell to restaurants and different flea markets, and that really has been a great transition from that into hemp, just from the basics and that, and seeing the little things in that, and then going to hemp. It's been really cool. That's been a great resource for me, and I've always been interested in plants from a very young age. My grandma always kept me in the garden, and when I've always been a huge fan of learning about cannabis. I'm constantly searching YouTube, and there's plenty of very informational people out there. Some of my favorite styles are growing no-till. There's a guy on YouTube, Mr. Brown Guy, and he grows no-till. He did a really great whole series through a whole summer from start to finish and talked about how it went, and it was really cool. So I just source from anywhere. People invite me to their farms, and I take nothing for granted. I soak up as much as I can. I really appreciate what Mr. Steve was doing at his farm. I feel like he's one of the farmers who are doing things the right way, and that's also something I'm concerned about in this industry, or the guys that are just in it for the money, and they could care less about the actual quality and the medicine of the flower. And that's also been a huge problem as a consultant, and not having that oversight to say, hey, I wish you wouldn't do that, but you should still do this. It's kind of hard to explain this to people sometimes,
Right, yep. Yeah, I mean, if people are using the hemp plant for medicine, there are just certain additives you don't want to put on the plant because you don't know what that's going to do to the human body. So in my view, you want to keep it very pure.
I completely understand that a lot of people are very invested into their crop, but sometimes I think they use that as an excuse to do things that necessarily they wouldn't even agree with, So I just want to throw that in there,
Yeah. How about like the marijuana stigma, like out in your neck of the woods? Like, what are the neighbors saying about these giant greenhouses full of hemp plants?
Well, around here, it hasn't been too bad. I know my local town, there was a facility out there that was, they were processing, and it became a pretty big issue. And, I mean, I don't know.
Was that the place that got shut down because of the smell, the Patriot place?
Yeah, I was actually working for a company last year, and where they had gave them some of their crop, and then they had shut down, and that place was really just a mess. And it just goes to show the poor management and how poor it can be in cannabis, especially with people who were first time growing or first time processing. It could be a circus sometimes. I've seen places completely get out of hand, but yeah, they were having a problem with the smell there, and I just think it's due to bad management. And we where I'm working now, we're pretty respectful of where we're at, and it's a good place. I wouldn't want to. I mean, I understand people issue with the smell, and as a cannabis connoisseur, I hate to be disrespectful to anyone as far as like a smell with a plant, or some people just don't know enough, and it's rude just to be ignorant to someone who's lacking information that you might have,
Right.
So that's kind of how I see that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, the plant smells.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people will get used to it in a few years.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It's been awesome that how far we've come in the last couple years, and it's cool too because even with it being only my second year growing, I feel like we're really just at the beginning of what's going to be the future of growing, with hemp and cannabis and just all that in general. It's taken agriculture, it seems like to me, to a whole nother level. I'm seeing equipment being made for doing all types of cool things, and it's been interesting, man. That's why I'm so ambitious and inspired by it, honestly,
Yeah, totally. It sounds like you're on the right track. Do you have an Instagram account that people could check out?
Yeah, my Instagram is Benny. My middle name is Benjamin, named after my great grandpa too. That's where the Benny comes from. Benny _ BENNY _ grows GRWS _ PGH.
Yeah, people can check you out on the Instagram.
Yeah, cool. And I really appreciate you calling me too, Mr. Eric. I think it's really cool what you're doing, just reaching out to people, especially in our area where things are just starting to start. So, yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, I'm glad it means something to you. It's good work for me. I'm really thankful that I get to do this. And, obviously I'm a big supporter of the industry, and I want to see this whole crop just take off and take over the world. So, all right. Hey, man, keep in touch. It's great to talk to you.
Take care, Mr. Eric. I'll talk to you, man.
All right. Thanks.
See ya. Bye.
See ya. That's Michael Edwards, young hemp grower from Western Pennsylvania. Next up, we're going to hear from Cameron McIntosh and Eric Titus White. They're going to tell us about a series of Hempcrete workshops that they're hosting at the end of September. So here we go. Eric White, Cameron McIntosh, welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. So you guys have been on the show before for different reasons, but today you're here because you are hosting a series of Hempcrete workshops in September, so I thought our audience should know about those. But first, could you each give us a little short introduction?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us back, or having me back. Love the show, and always a pleasure. My name is Eric White. I'm the owner of the Hempstead in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. We were a CBD hemp farm last year, and this year we're growing 5 different varieties of fiber hemp. Also working on my house and a cottage and building that with some hempcrete, hemp lime. Also just got the go ahead to start work on a small eco village in our town on 8 acres that we own, and looking to do some small hemp houses on that as well.
Awesome. Cameron?
Yeah, so Cameron McIntosh with Amerishamb, working with Eric on all the aforementioned projects up at his place as well. We are a Hempcrete installation company, basically a subcontractor that specializes in this particular biocomposite insulation material. So yeah, we have a couple different install methods that we work with. One of the more exciting is our spray applied system, and we'll be using that in a couple different ways on Eric's project and elsewhere. So I'm also on the board of directors for the US Hemp Building Association, and now the coalition leader for the Hemp Local Supply Chain Coalition under the All Together Now PA nonprofit led by our good friend Judy Wicks. So looking to pull all of these organizations together in a great setting up at Eric's place in the Delaware Water Gap, Stroudsburg, PA, do something, to get as many of these different groups involved, professional building type trades involved with what we're doing, let them know about Hempcrete, show them a little something, and do it all in such a way where we're, staying safe and maintaining distancing and being, sensitive and aware to all the things around the COVID situation right now. But we think it's time. Much of this will be, if not all of it, will be digitized as well for this upcoming series of events that we're calling Hempcrete Week. And Eric can give you a little bit more on the schedule here.
So yeah, we're really excited. We felt like this year has been a total bummer, and it as it definitely has. And OpCana, the event that we were putting on in Delaware Water Gap as well, we had to cancel that, and really just felt like we didn't get anything done this summer, and wanted to keep the momentum moving forward. Also, we're going to be able to do most of this stuff outside, so we are going to limit the amount of people that we bring to the farm and to the events in Philadelphia, but we will maintain social distances and just be responsible. So Hempcrete Week is going to be 5, potentially 6 days of events, 3 of which will be at my farm in East Stroudsburg. We're right in the Delaware Water Gap, right along the Delaware River. It's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then potentially Friday. We're going to take off to finish up the work at my house and then go back to Philadelphia on Saturday for the closing.
What are the dates?
The September 21st to 26th. Monday, we're focusing on architects and engineers. Tuesday, DIY, contractors, developers, homeowners. So Wednesday is a farmer-focused event. We'll bring the public and the press in. And then Thursday, we're heading to Philadelphia. We're working with one of our members of the All Together Now Hemp Coalition at the Black Cannabis Week. So that's going to be a great event on Thursday. Friday, as I said, we're going to take off, finish things up at the Hempstead. And then Saturday, we're working with Ron Kander of Jefferson University, and we're going to be hosting an event in Philadelphia focused on the students and the education behind the sustainable building movement. We're going to be working on a project on that Saturday with Ron and building some hemp blocks. And all of the materials that we make that day are going to be used for a research project at Jefferson University that's going to span 3 months and test the blocks. Okay. So again, it's going to be a great week, and we're hoping to kind of pick up that momentum that we feel like we lost back in March. And again, really excited to get this going. And thank you, Eric, for letting us talk about it. The website hempcreteweek.com is going to have all the information that everybody needs. Also, Americhamp and Opcana and my website hempsteadpa.com and all of our Instagrams. It's all going to be on there, so you won't be able to miss any of the details.
Okay, and so people can register at hempcreteweek.com for the workshops?
Yes, they can.
Okay, and is it a thing where you have to register for the whole week, or can you just drop into different sessions?
So we tried to make it tailored to an individual audience. So Mondays, again, we don't want to bore people with farming if they're never going to farm the product. So or hemp. So Mondays, architects and engineers, et cetera, is going to be very focused on architects and engineers. And Cam, I think, can explain this better, but he knows exactly what he needs to deliver to each audience to make them feel like they got the most of that other time there.
And then is there I'm sure there's a fee associated with this. What can people expect to be paying for the sessions?
It's going to be scaled. And, we feel like architects and engineers are going to be okay with paying a little bit more than your students and the public. So all the details will be online.
Okay.
And it won't break the bank.
Right.
Yeah, there'll be certain days again targeted to different groups, and this is sort of one of the things that we've been working on with the US Hemp Builders Association. We now have a regional leadership program where we have people that are working in the space, people that are interested, building professionals from auxiliary sort of industries. That are all working together in their specific area to raise awareness and host events. So this will be tied together with our regional leadership program for the USHBA, a part of which includes a standard set of presentations that have been tailored to each of these different groups. So we'll be explaining and prepared to answer questions that an architect or an engineer might have. We'll be showing them things that they'll want to see live demonstrated for them, different techniques, working together also with one of our member groups, Coexist Build in Blandon, to show off their new precast block product and how that can be used in coordination with other techniques, if you will. So each of these days is again going to be more angled towards the professionals from around the space that we really want to get interested and excited. And again, the questions that they'll have, the things they'll want to see are going to be very different for architects and engineers than it would be for a farmer. A farmer on the farming day, all of these days will still include some hands-on demonstration or working with Hempcrete. Again, it'll be a sliding scale. The Architects and Engineers Day is going to be very specific. We're going to show them multiple techniques that will likely consume the whole day. Homeowners and builders, we're going to go a little bit less, heavy and intense on the science behind each technique, but still show them each one and how they might be used together for whatever situation they're looking at, whether it's retrofitting older homes or building new. And then, the farming day, again, we want to show them, like Eric said, from seed to crop to process to finish and good. So that's sort of the angle for all of this. And then the final day, obviously, as well with the students, to get people who are in university engaged, and learning and working with the material. And again, hoping and having Jefferson's support to take them through a longer period of study on those materials will then be open to, everyone's interpretation. So again, we're trying to target all of these different groups in 1 week. Again, most of it will be digitized. The Thursday of the week we're doing in coordination with, as Eric mentioned, Sharon Perry Thomas of the Plant Medicine Coalition, the leader for the Plant Medicine Coalition under All Together Now. She's hosting an event during that week called Black Cannabis Week. And so that Thursday we'll be installing a wall in her shop, soon to be a plant-based shop in Philadelphia with some of the people from her group. That will mostly be digital, the participation for that, but we do plan on broadcasting that. So all these events will be broadcast. There'll be a different flavor for every day. There'll be a different pay scale for every day as well. If you're coming to really learn as an architect or engineer, we're going to deliver some content.
Okay.
If you just want to see the process and get your hands on it, great day to come on Tuesday. And again, if you're really interested in farming it and how to grow it, which is something that we're very keen to push with all together now, we've separated CBD and put it into our plant medicine coalition so that we can focus with the hemp local supply chain coalition specifically on developing, again, the supply chain, the local supply chain for fiber industrial processes.
Right. So you say you're going to be broadcasting these. Will that be a live broadcast, or that's something that you would go to the website and view later?
Yeah, Eric, we'll be broadcasting for those that can't show up. We'll be broadcasting it and posting it on live. That's specifically for those that are unable to attend, but pay and want to be involved. We know that there's going to be people across the country that aren't able to make it. So
okay, and I know safety is a major concern. Social distancing and all that. Are you capping the live attendance at a certain point? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. The entire event will be capped at 25 people per day, and that's with film crew and instructors. So there's definitely a limited availability for each day, and it's unfortunately the world that we live in right now. But we feel like that's a good number, and it'll give us a really good instructor to student ratio as well.
Good. Yeah, safety is key. Many years ago, I worked as an electrician with my Uncle Doug, and our motto was safety first, then lunch. So is there going to be some kind of food option here? Talk to me about the lunch.
I'm pretty into the lunch, and even more so the after party. So we can't leave that out. And Judy and I have talked about that as well. So at the farm, we're definitely going to be offering lunch. And every day afterwards, we'll have a little bonfire and kind of a recap. And people are, able to bring their near beers and non-alcoholic ciders. No, I'm just kidding. But no, we'll be definitely having a good get together at lunch and after each event. And then on Saturday after the event in Philadelphia is going to be the closing reception. And we'll post just some details about that as well. And we'd like to see some faces from everybody that we've missed over the summer. So.
Great. Okay. Sounds like a really amazing week full of lots of educational experiences. So in your intro, Eric, you said that you were a CBD grower last year, but this year you pivoted to fiber. I think that's awesome. I actually mentioned that in last week's show, not about you specifically, but there I talked about a story that was in Bloomberg about how the CBD industry is just, I don't want to say collapsing in on itself, but I thought this would be a great opportunity for all the people who learned how to grow hemp through CBD to then pivot to fiber and grain. So what made you decide to do that?
Yeah, so obviously, because I've been working with Cameron and all together now in the Hemp Coalition, and we've been watching this market kind of ebb and flow. And my father owns a large cannabis dispensary in New Mexico, also has a CBD operation. I called this many times before the gateway crop. This is the reason why I bought my farm. This year, we started our CSA program. I'm farming corn and produce, and we have goats, and really loved this intro into farming, and it opened my eyes to the kind of the joys of the operation. I didn't want to stop just because there wasn't a market for CBD, so I pivoted and started the produce. And also in building the Hempstead out of Hempcrete with Cameron, realized, man, why are we bringing this in from France? This is madness. So we've been really working on the process, and I have 5 different varieties growing now so that we can really understand. I want to get my hands on it and tell people why this product from France is better than the product from Pennsylvania. What about the plant and the processing of it gives you a good product for hemp building? I want to be able to answer that from my own experience. So that's why we're growing that crop this year, and that's why I made that pivot. And even with with the grains, we're working on a hemp milk project that I wanted to talk with you a little bit about. We want to use the entire plant, so we've got the herd covered. We're looking at the fiber. We're trying to figure out what we want to do with the fiber and potentially the grain as well. Judy and I have been working really, really hard on trying to build this farmer education program for those that are looking to get into farming hemp that haven't before, or were CBD farmers before, but now they feel like they don't have a buyer for their CBD, so maybe they're interested in going into the hemp. In order to do that, you need to be able to get rid of the product, and so we're looking for end-use products. We're looking for varieties that can, get us what we're really looking for in the quality of the herd, the quality of the grain, and the fiber as well. Worked with the USDA this year, put in a grant application for beginning farmers and ranchers. Out of 170 applicants, we were shortlisted to the 30. It was awarded to 20, and we were not awarded because we had limited history in teaching farmers. So this is going to be our first farmer education seminar. And it's going to be the first of many for this year, so that next year, when we resubmit that grant, we have some really good history and, experience with training farmers, and we can get that grant and turn this into a 3-year program to start converting, the civilians into farmers, or other types of farmers into hemp farmers.
That's great. Good. All right. Well, Hempcrete Week, September 21st through the 26th. And folks can learn about this at hempcreteweek.com. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we wrap it up?
Just that we really appreciate what you're doing, and we hope to see you at least one of those days. And as always, thanks to Lancaster Farmer.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. Thanks for what you guys are doing. Cameron, any final words from you?
Yeah, we're just really excited to do this. Not set back at all by not receiving that grant. Really, all that means is that we won't have money to pay farmers to attend. We're still going to be hosting this education, still very keenly interested in developing the supply for these materials here in Pennsylvania. And, via our group all together now, we really do have someone doing something, in every respect, in regards to hemp. People building with it, people growing the grain, plenty of people, working with the cannabinoid side. This is a fantastic group with the right leader, and just so grateful to be working with all these people, the two of you included. We've got such a great microcosm, a consortium here in Pennsylvania. And this is sort of what, OpCanna was supposed to be, as a celebration, and we're pivoting, we're growing. Eric has changed, a very different farmer than he was at this time last year for a lot of different reasons. But, focusing and uniting around the industrial uses for the fiber and the herd of the plant are the real promise here. And I think that people are starting to recognize that. So welcoming with open arms anyone who's interested to come see what hemp building is all about and see a working hemp farm.
Awesome. That's great. Yes. I believe the promise of hemp lies in the fiber and the herd and the grain. So appreciate what you guys are doing. It's great to catch up with you again. And hopefully we'll see you up there in September.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Cheers, Eric. Thanks, man.
All right. That was Eric Titus White and Cameron McIntosh hosting a series of Hempcrete workshops. You can get all the information you need about those things on the show page for this episode. I'll have all the websites where you can click and register and that sort of thing. So that does it for this episode. That does it for me. That does it for the 99th episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. So, my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper. And like I said in the top of the show, if you can humor me and call up my voicemail and leave me a little recorded message that I could use on the show to sort of celebrate our 100th episode, which is next week. So, all right, thanks again. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. Oh wait, one more thing. Don't forget to put your comments on the DEA website, okay? I'll have that link in the show page for this episode too. Episode 99 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2020 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.
Industrial hemp.